What's up, gangy? Welcome to another episode of Plot Twist with your host, AJ Wallace. I am him and he is I. And in today's episode, we're going to be going over a couple things. We're going to be talking some Wednesday. We're going to talk some anime. We got Yakuta, even some Hard Knocks, and also the hot topics of this week's episode include something that's near and dear to my heart, man. The mini episode or, series Epidemic. I'll get into that a little bit later. We're also going to be looking at some the first looks at Spider-Man 4, you know what I'm saying? And then also we're going to be talking not necessarily some controversy, but we're going to be talking about how we start to cover things later on the episode. So if you're interested in those things, stay tuned. But before we get into things, I need y'all to do one thing for me. Hit that like button. Well, actually two. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. It's been like a month since I did an episode of Plot Twist, and that was not by design. I'm gonna buck with you. It wasn't by design, but we're back. So first things first, let's get into hot topics. Okay, so the mini series Epidemic. Right now, you might hear that and be like, what the heck is that? Right? And this is just something I have noticed to be a trend, and it seems to only be getting worse, where the streaming services, whether it's Netflix or Prime, HBO, Disney Plus might be the worst one, but depending on which one you're subscribed to, it or if you're subscribed to all of them, they have been coming out with these series that have just been getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Or there's a situation where they, basically just release them in parts, and in the time frame of the parts release, you basically completely forget about the show. Now, the only way that I can really justify it is that it simply keeps you connected to the streaming service longer. You know what I'm saying? If they span it to every series being like 2-3 parts and it spans over months, that means you're going to be a partner for 3 months versus just the one. But that is the core of the Epidemic. And I put out a poll on my YouTube, and I'm really excited to see what you guys think about just how long you're expecting these shows to be now, because I've come to kind of just basically accept the fact that we're never going back. You know what I'm saying? The age of like really getting full seasons going from 12 to 20 something episodes is over with. You know what I'm saying? We're in a new era of streaming, and shows are just going to keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now, the episode length, on the contrary, is getting longer, but the amount of episodes in proportion to that and the frequency in which they come out has only dwindled. So I think Netflix and Prime are low-key doing this the most, but like a lot of times it's like the most egregious sometimes with Disney. You know what I'm saying? Just because like of all the hype that a lot of those franchises have. I first noticed it with Ozark, like being so hyped for the last season of Ozark to come out, and then it got released parts, and like I think they did it well, where like the part that essentially ended at for the first half of the final season was like an epic moment, and then I was like, wait, where's the rest of it? You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, oh man, what are we doing? And the similar thing with Stranger Things and other shows. This is not necessarily a new thing, right? But at that period of time when they started doing the whole we're going to release a whole season in parts thing and not necessarily disclose it initially, it was just like, okay, I'm kind of confused at why we're switching things up. What happened to the whole we're going to release the whole thing at once? Like it, because if not, I'd rather just release one episode a week. You know what I'm saying? Or do a 3-pack. Like I like that form of release schedule. But it's not even like the reason why it's an epidemic right now is because it's not even so much the amount of parts that's the problem. It's the time between releases, because by the time something gets released, like I think Invincible probably was the most egregious one that I can think of top of mind, where we get like 4 episodes and then we gotta wait 6 months for the next four, or I don't even know how long it was, but it was a long time in between time. And currently with Wednesday is almost a month between release. So it's like when you're doing that, especially when it's like you're banking on the series to do well, to like not necessarily warrant them making it, but like it warrants you continuing it, that might start to trickle off. Like I don't know if it'll happen necessarily like with Wednesday, but like with some newer IPs that aren't like don't have any legacy or no big name attached to it, like yeah, it could definitely fall off. Versus like if you released it consistently and it's there immediately the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So that is like a thing that I'm personally of the mindset now that is just gonna be the thing now. Like we're gonna get 4 episode seasons, 4 episode parts, and like we're just gonna have to wait. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it sucks, but like if the product is still good, like yes, we might get longer episodes, but if the product is still good, then I guess like hopefully they will like eventually merge to the point where it's like, okay, now we're getting like more frequency. Like if they released every season or every series like they did Arcane, where it was like every week we get a 3-pack, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? If you want to do 3 episode parts or 4 episode parts. But like once you start to get into past like 2-3 weeks, it's just like what I'm on to the next thing. You know what I'm saying? I completely forgot that this was coming out. Like what do I need to watch this again for it, especially if it wasn't really that good. So something to keep in mind. You know what I'm saying? Something to keep in mind. The next thing on the docket is Spider-Man 4. Now, personally, y'all know how I feel about sports, right? As far as like before something comes out, I don't really like to look at stuff like this, but could not escape the new suit, bro. New Spidey suit looks fire. That joint looks fire, bruh. And it's not as like blue, like light blue, as like with the end of what was it, No Way Home was, but like the logo on the front is mega clean, and I'm just super excited to see what Spider-Man got. I also seen some images of Punisher too, but I don't know if that was for like I didn't really look too deep into it. I don't know if that was for Spider-Man or if that was for something else, because like I did a poll the other day, like a couple weeks ago maybe at this point, about who's the new glue guy in Marvel. You know what I'm saying? And I might have to put the Punisher on the list because he's popping up in all these shows. You know what I'm saying? Bucky might be the glue guy for the movies, but Punisher is in every freaking show. At least the ones that's based in New York almost. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think that, Spider-Man 4 might be like the first true Spider-Man movie where we actually start to see real Spider-Man tropes from a Tom Holland, right? Because at this point we done seen 3 interpretations of Peter Parker, and there's only been really one. I mean, I guess TASM had like yeah, I guess TASM has some elements in it too, where it's like you get to see the actual life of Peter Parker, but like the stuff that Peter gets into in the comics, as far as like living an adult life, we have not seen in the MCU yet. So now that Tom Holland's Peter Parker or Spider-Man is out of school, I think he's out of school. I'm pretty sure he's out of school, right? I'm actually blanking right now on like how it ended, but just as far as like this brand new Spidey, he's actually could be dealing with some actual like stuff, like working for Daily Bugle, being broke, and like dealing with relationships and in a real way, not such a kiddie Disney Channel, what I'm saying, way. And I'm just super excited to tap into like that side of Peter Parker, because yes, obviously like Spider-Man is gonna be Spider-Man, and it's been great up until now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking anything away from Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man, but you know, this is the first time like we're gonna see him with like basically a blank slate, and that has me actually super hyped. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no Tony Stark, there's no other Spideys really there to, you know, not help him, but in a sense, like just like carry the load a little bit for the direction of the character. Now it's really just all on Tom Holland. So we're gonna really see, you know, what he can do with that. And that's not to say that like, you know, Zendaya and what's the other dude's name? I can't think of the other dude's name, but the best friend won't appear in the next movie. Ned. He won't appear in the next movie. But it's just something to think about as far as like how Peter's going to be really dealing with all of, not necessarily the trauma all the time, but more so just like living life after No Way Home. And I'm super excited for that. You know what I'm saying? But the next thing that I wanted to talk about comes from it's a video that I'm in the process of editing, right? But hopefully by the time that this is out, it'll already be out. But it was basically a stitch from a creator named Tracy Allen, where essentially not necessarily what the topic of his video was, because I think it came from a live stream. I'm pretty sure it came from a live stream, and it got uploaded to his Clips channel on TikTok, where basically they was talking about Baki and Kenichi, the mightiest warrior or the mightiest disciple. And basically he was saying that, you know, if you were to watch Kenichi, the mightiest warrior, you will no longer like Baki. And I don't have a problem with the take, right? We all have hot takes. Two things can be true at once, right? But the only issue I have with it is the way we talk about things, because it like saying that you'll no longer like Baki is like could be a true thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be a true thing, but it also kind of others people in the sense of like if you like Baki after watching Kenichi, the mightiest warrior, then something's wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? Like now you bugging. So it's like obviously I don't think that that's was his intention in saying that. And like I'm not here to police nobody content or anything like that. I'm just like the bigger conversation around it, and what, you know, came to my brain when I thought about it is like, why can't we like both? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it that when, you know, something that could, in your perspective, be better means that we can no longer like this other thing? You know what I'm saying? That we liked before. And it also, you know, means that like, or when you say it in that way, like it's almost like you're saying that like, you know, you probably haven't seen Kenichi the Mightiest Warrior, or like it implies that you haven't seen it at least. You know what I'm saying? And because you haven't seen it, that's why you like Baki. When like I've watched both of them, like OG Baki and Kenichi the Mightiest Warrior, and this is just, I know this is like he's talking to a broader audience, right? He's not just talking to me, obviously. You know what I'm saying? But and Kenichi the Mightiest Warrior never got to really finish the anime, but I also just think like that they're two completely different anime, where it's like, yes, they both include fighting and like a growth period, but like it's more so like where when you frame it in that way, it's almost like now when people watch it, they have a bias in mind, because now they're looking for the series to be better than Baki, versus like just being able to experience the series and putting people onto a new series that they might not be hip to. You know what I'm saying? Because Kenichi, compared to like the Baki of today, like the Baki Hama and the Son of Ogre, and you know, all the newer series on Netflix and stuff like that, like you might be introducing somebody to Kenichi, you know what I'm saying, for the first time that hasn't seen it. So it's like two things can be true, right? But like when you know, it's one thing to share your perspective, but then it's another thing to impose it on other people. Where it's like, you know, you could have just been like, if you like Baki, oh, you're really gonna like Kenichi, the mightiest disciple. You know what I'm saying? Like that's another way to do it, but it's definitely not as spicy. And you know, like I said, I'm not trying to police nobody's content because obviously, that kind of take works. But sometimes I feel like there's better ways to create discourse. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's something I can learn from him from saying that. Cause it's like I don't have no problem with Tracy Allen's content or anything like that. It's more so like when he said that, I was like, dang, why can't we like both? And I was looking in the comments, which is not something I normally do, but like happened to be looking in the comments and Youngins like were disagreeing and agreeing and also had to take words like why can't we like both? Because I think both are great. You know what I'm saying? I just think they're trying to do different things. Like it'd be one thing if Baki and Kenichi had like basically the same, not same storyline, but like a similar storyline where it's like you like them for different things. Like I think Kenichi's more akin to like Hajime no Ippo because it's like you're going from like a novice, like nobody type thing to like basically being the best in the world, right? And you're seeing the ups and downs of that. And like, I think if we're talking about just fighting him, I think Hajime no Ippo does it the best. But with Baki, it's like you're taking a child prodigy and you're trying to defeat the GOAT, aka Yujiro Hama, right? And his father. But it's really, anime to me is really not necessarily about the fighting per se, but just about the conversation that comes from actual fights and what these fighters are learning about what is strength and what's true strength and like what they really care about. And I think with Kenichi it was more so like novice learning from all these different masters and being able to combine them into just being the best. And I didn't read the manga, but like as far as where the anime left off, from what I can remember, it was just more so like the thing I liked about it the most was just seeing him progress in so many different things and so many different avenues and seeing all these different types of martial arts in a way that's like, pleasing to the eye is not the right phrase, but you get what I'm trying to say, and I just think they're trying to accomplish two different things. So will you like Kenichi if you watch that joint before or after watching Baki? Yes, I think they're both dope. Like I think they're both good shows. I just think like the way that we frame things can sometimes skew how youngins receive it. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't think that's anybody's intention. I'm not trying to start no beef, none of that. You know what I'm saying? But that's just something I was like, I gotta talk about this on the pod one day. So shout out to Tracy Allen. You know what I'm saying? W content at the end of the day. And it did what it's supposed to do. It's part conversation. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, now it's time to get into the weekly recap after, going over the hot topics. First up, we got to talk Wednesday, season 2, part 1. New school year means new characters. And some of these characters were good and some of these characters were bad. Now, this is still, like I said, only part 1. By the time this comes out, part 2 will probably be just on the verge of coming out. So, we'll see how they progress from here. But, to start off, I want to just talk about Pugsley for a second here because I think Pugsley has a lot of potential, but the way that they kind of using him in the story is making him fall flat. Like especially from the way that they opened the season with like us getting reintroduced to him and him like having his first day of school. Like there's so many potential things of like that we could have seen him do, and he kind of just got subbed into the background just to suffice the plot and essentially create or make a antagonist come to life essentially and start on a path of destruction right? And then he was just along for the ride after that. Now, somebody that they did do a good job establishing in this new season was Principal Dort. His storyline, as far as like him being this principal bigwig trying to fundraise, you know, his basically nest egg is what I'm getting from the situation. You know, he's more CEO than principal. Um, is very interesting, and I'm excited to see where they take that next. But I just think like compared to the first season, and even in the case with Wednesday, like the character development in this joint is on track, but it's slow. You know what I'm saying? And we're 4 episodes in, and we only got 4 more, so it's like it's do or die at this point. You know. Now, personally, with like Wednesday, I want to see her get challenged more. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily in a physical way, but just like more like emotional because, you know, we get the conflict with her mom, but not necessarily um we don't really dive deeper into some of the ones with like other characters in the series because there's just a lot of things happening right now. And there's a lot more mystery behind like the lore versus it, you know, being right in the front of our face as far as like, all right, we can see the, you know, track record, we can see the storyline and for how it is. And we obviously track to see like, okay, like now like I can see that Wednesday from episode 1 is different from Wednesday in episode 4. You know what I'm saying? Now, this might be the breaking point at the end of episode 4 if you know what happens. Because if you haven't seen it yet, you know what I'm saying, it's about to turn up. You know, like she just got hit with a major reality check. You know, and if she wakes up, not necessarily like reformed or like different, but more so like just like change just a little bit, like to acknowledge like some of her faults. Then I'm like, okay, like now we're actually getting somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like the series so far as a whole, like I think they went 2 for 4 out of the 4 pack. You know, like a lot of these storylines kind of intermingle in between episodes, so it's hard to really say like the whole thing was bad, but I think it was still, you know, pretty good. Like I think the only thing that, you know, was probably could have been cut out is the whole camping trip because it felt way too Disney Channel for me, bro. For a Wednesday series, I was like, yo, you know, this is what is that thing that Disney used to do, like the sports day or whatever? It felt like that. You know what I'm saying? It felt like I've seen this a million times before. I think the zip line was a cool touch, but we've seen that in the trailer, so it's not like super crazy. Now, as far as like the world building aspect of Wednesday, um, I think I feel like the normie slash like or the normie versus outcast um, debate has kind of lost some steam or like it has is not as like prevalent as it was in the first season where it was like almost some character's whole identity, you know. And I don't know if it's such a situation of like they don't want to be too repetitive, but it's starting to feel like I don't really see Young is too different anymore as far as, you know, what the goals is for some of these characters. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing like how they go about that in part 2. But, you know, I think the biggest question in the series is just what these black tears are really about. We got a little bit of insight from Morticia, as far as like the same thing happened with Wednesday's aunt Ophelia, and she kind of basically went crazy from it, just pushing herself way too hard, way too fast, with being a psychic. I think that's what they call themselves, psychics, right? Um, be able to see the future and stuff like that. So that's the biggest question that I have, like mainly like how does it work and why things are happening the way that they are, and hopefully, you know, with the whole prison escape type situation, Aunt Ophelia can kind of, you know, clear things up if that is who I think she is, you know. Um, but like in closing, like I really just feel like part 1 just had way too many cooks in the kitchen. I feel like they was trying to do way too many things at once, and for us to like kind of solve everything, not the main big problems, but like some of the things that were like more interesting, such as like one of the stalkers, having that being solved and it becoming a trope throughout the show. I just felt like that was just like that was kind of way too fast, you know. Like I missed the aspect of like Wednesday really feeling superior than everybody else as far as like how smart she is and like what she can do. I feel like it's just been a little bit too easy. It's been too like, you know, everything's working way too well, and they haven't had enough setbacks. Wednesday specifically. So, you know, that's pretty much where I'm at with Wednesday. The next thing I was going to talk about this week was Gachi Okuda, because I think we're like 5 episodes in, and you know, for me right now, like that anime has taken the torch from Dandadan. Like I'm way more interested in the world of Gachi Okuda than Dandadan right now, because it doesn't feel as gimmicky, and that's not something to you know, take away from Dandadan being a good anime or not, because I think it is a good anime. I just am way more intrigued by the world of Gachi Okuda right now, because for one, like the art style, but also like the world, because it's definitely the most intriguing thing. Like the trash beasts are really like nothing special. Like we've seen monsters before, and just the fact that they're made of trash now is like a whole nother thing. But the vital instruments aspect of it is where things like really take a turn, because there's basically endless possibilities of what things can be. You know what I'm saying? When you're just using, you know, ordinary objects. So that has me super hype. And then getting to understand the different power structures within the world, along with the main character, it just has me hyped for like, oh man, like I thought the spear was bad, but now there's like, you know, the different bandits, and then there's this younger with dreads that is like ultimate villain already, even though we haven't really seen him do much. He just been aura farming this whole time. And I'm just like, yo, the politics and the spear versus the ground, and like if they ever connect or you know, find a way back up, it's gonna go stupid, bro. It's gonna go stupid. And I have not read the manga, but I did watch a video on the creator of manga, and like she's like a prodigy. She's a prodigy, so I have high hopes for this joint for sure, for sure. So if you have not checked out Gacha Okuda yet, definitely check that joint out. The last thing that I had to talk about today was Hard Knocks, as far as like one of the main topics, because we're like 2 episodes into Hard Knocks, and they're covering the Bills right now. And to me, the Bills are an interesting pick for Hard Knocks, because usually my experience with Hard Knocks is like they're choosing. I haven't seen a lot of Hard Knocks. I think the only one I've like watched fully through as far as like preseason goes, you know, they got the in season one too, is definitely just the Bears one, and that just had all the hype because of Caleb Williams being the #1 pick and being a quarterback. So like I was going in there more interested in, I'm thinking I'm going to be seeing like Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans as Hard Knocks, but them choosing Josh Allen makes sense because, you know, he won the MVP, and it's like, okay, how do you go from winning the MVP to winning the Super Bowl? But I don't know if that necessarily happens in the preseason. Maybe it does, but you know, with Hard Knocks, it's like all about the storylines, and like the storylines are definitely going to storylines. They're going to hit you hard in the fields, regardless. You know what I'm saying? So that's a standard. But I think it's a good change of pace to go from basically a team that is on the like rebuilding or on the come up to a team that's actually a contender. You know, and I've been watching a lot of football content recently on YouTube. Like a lot of these teams now do their own docuseries of not only just the preseason, but just like, you know, throughout the year, and watching a whole bunch of press conferences and stuff like that. So going from that to seeing like what a contender looks like is very interesting, because it's like now there's like a winning culture here, and it's like, okay, like I could respect that. You know what I'm saying? Like when the Cowboys inevitably get to their season, like when they're doing the whole NFC East, now that's gonna be crazy because it's like how far are they gonna let you know how far is gonna let them into Jerry World? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that gonna be like? That's gonna be kind of nuts. I'm super excited for it though. But other than that, Josh Allen is hilarious. Josh Allen's hilarious. But I feel like the position battles actually they found a way to make it feel urgent. You know, they're all fighting for the QB2 spot. They're not fighting for a QB1 spot. You know what I'm saying? And inevitably youngins get hurt. So like the other position battles aren't necessarily as interesting. But you know what I'm saying? It still feels like youngins is really out here going crazy, like trying to make a play, you know? And I just want to see like if it's actually going to make a difference this season because the Bills have been like winning for a while now, but they haven't won the big game yet. So like it's going to be dope. And I'm tired of seeing all these ads about these new stadiums, bro. Every time I watch something, it's like, yeah, we got a new stadium here, new stadium there. Like it's cool. But like, hopefully we don't get a whole like a couple more episodes on the stadium being built. Like, hopefully that was it because it's been 2 episodes already, and I think there's probably going to be only like a couple more. But I'm just not a big fan of the stadium ads, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, bro, what are we talking about? But I get it, bro. They gotta get that bread. You know what I'm saying? Now that's all I got for the weekly recap. That's all I really been watching super heavy, very consistently over it's been a month. So the next part of the show is your favorite, bro. The part where you guys get to participate, and that is Ask Me Anything. Okay, so I got 2 questions this week, and they're kind of like I've answered one of them on TikTok before I did this, but the other one I haven't talked about at all, like 0. So, you know, we finna get into it right now. So first one, shout out to Ben. He asked, "What's your favorite childhood TV show?" And I don't know if this is like obvious or if it's not. I'm not really sure. But if I'm keeping it a buck, like when I'm looking back and thinking about the shows that shaped my childhood, right? A couple shows come to mind. But the main one is Power Ranger. I really thought I was finna be a Power Ranger. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it was. I ain't take no karate classes. I ain't do nothing, but I love Power Rangers. Like, I watched every season that I could. Anytime it was on, I had the movies, I had toys, like all that. You know what I'm saying? And I watched the movies over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So I loved Power Rangers, but like just as much of Power Rangers I've also like watched a lot of SpongeBob and like, you know, Ed, Ed, Nettie, and I did a whole cartoon tier list for Tier List Tuesday for Cartoon Network. So like, and a Mighty Morphin tier list. So like, if you're in the tier list, definitely check those out. But like, if I had to pick one, it definitely probably be Power Rangers for sure. Yeah, and it's funny that like the last 2 questions for Power Rangers, or not Power Rangers, but for Plot Twist, was Power Rangers are hilarious. I mean, it wasn't related, but that is my answer. So shout out to Ben for asking that question. The next question comes from username NCAA Sim Year 16, and they asked, how do I feel about AI? Now, this is a tricky question because are we talking about Allen Iverson or the technology? No, we're talking about technology, right? So obviously, or maybe not obviously, I don't know how y'all feel about AI, but personally, the way I see it is just basically it's a tool. You know, there's definitely like environmental aspects to it that are not good. You know what I'm saying? Especially like where they're kind of placed, you know. you've been watching the Grits and Eggs podcast, you already know what what I'm talking about with that. But as far as like how I use it, I basically just use it for my G file scores when I need to extend the background, and then like help in it. I use it ChatGPT specifically to like help ideate for titles sometimes on YouTube. But it's never like I take the exact title from the results. It's always like a combination of like what I already got, and then it's like, okay, how can I make this joint better? So it's good like for that purpose. But as far as like what I don't really like for is like when it's just like explicitly used to like create art or for like marketing and like getting all these like AI ads and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't really like that stuff because it's like you could be paying somebody else to do that actually. You know what I'm saying? But the way the world is going, automation is going to be a thing. You know what I'm saying? It's already a thing, and it's only going to get more robust. I just think it's more so in how you use it. It becomes the ethical question behind it. So, I use it in like Photoshop and stuff like that, but it's never like to do something like egregiously. You know what I'm saying? I'm literally like just extending the picture. So like what you actually see, like if you can see the template that I use, what you actually see when it gets posted, I just want you to be able to see the full frame of the thing without it being compromised by like being stretched and stuff like that. I want you to see the highest quality. So sometimes I have to extend it so that like when it gets cropped, you see what you're supposed to see. You know what I'm saying? So like, other than that, I don't really use it that crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still like trying to learn as much as I can about it, because obviously like if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. So like, just being able to ask the right questions sometimes is the best answer. But, as far as how do I feel about it, I just feel like it's a tool to be used, but it's like ethically though. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not out here trying to like, I'm not advocating for people to like when they had the whole trend where like you use the Studio Ghibli joint to make a profile picture. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to take somebody's whole art style. Like I'm extending backgrounds. Like I'm extending clouds and skies and stuff like that. So and that's within Adobe. So there's still like I'm paying for Adobe. So, I don't know how exploitative that process is, but I know like the environmental aspect of like these big servers and stuff like that, they'll definitely go crazy. But I'm sure like with time they'll figure out a way to, mitigate that. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm not no scientist, bro. I can't. I'm just making YouTube videos, but that's pretty much how I feel about it. So hopefully that answer suffice. you know. But yeah. Let me know in the comment sections what y'all think and about everything we talked about today. And leave your questions in the comment section below. You might get chosen to be in the next episode or plot twist. So appreciate y'all rocking with your boy, and hope y'all enjoyed the episode. If y'all did, hit that like button, hit subscribe button. We're so close to 800 subs on YouTube, so if y'all can help us reach that, that would be great. And I'll see y'all. Peace.